This is my new studio, and if it looks a little familiar, it's because this would be a great place for some unboxings, some therapeutic unboxings. But the reality is, I was interested in this new Galaxy Fold, and I didn't have access to it because I'm not cool enough. But there is someone we all know who is. So this is actually my very first time interacting with the Galaxy Fold.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dave 2D. Welcome.
If you don't
Happy to
know
have
who he
you.
is, I mean, you're living under a rock.
Okay, so I've been using it.
Okay.
My SIM card is in it.
So it's not fresh.
It's in the daily driver status. So just keep that in mind.
That's okay. I'll take your
This is
sloppy
the first,
seconds.
this is the true first impression. Dave has not looked at this yet.
I haven't even seen people's videos. Not your video, not Marquez's, nobody's video, because I want to...
I present you my latest invention, the Galaxy Fold. I'll unlock it for you. There you go. This is the number one question with the scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd seen it before. I
Yep.
know a lot of people have like talked about it, and a lot of people were critical about it like
Yeah.
early on.
It's there.
It's there. It's
there.
more noticeable than I thought it would be.
It's there. Here's the funny thing about it. In this environment, right? Like this well-lit environment, this
Okay.
is almost like daylight sort of.
Yeah,
In the
it's very
studio
bright.
here, it's super bright. Everyone says that whoever comes here. There's all kinds of reflections to be had, and those reflections create
Yeah.
the perception of a much bigger scene than when you're in other lighting environments. Like, for example, where do you usually use your phone? Where would you have it folded out? Where would you be consuming content? Maybe for some people, it's in broad daylight, and then the scene would bother them more. But for me personally, it's typically indoors.
Yeah.
And the brighter the screen is in relationship to the ambient light, the more that the crease disappears. I mean, unless you're looking for it. If you're really looking for it, you can find it. But there's been an interesting conversation about it. Like, a lot of people are saying that's a deal breaker for them right out of the gate because they're not used to the idea of a smartphone having this imperfection like this. But then there's a different group of people that are like, hey man, products have had hinges and seams. Like, what about a book? If you have if you slightly shift your perspective and you think of more typical traditional content delivery systems like publications, like paper, then you kind of change a little
You're
bit.
good with it.
You kind of change your perspective.
I feel like the fold it's noticeable. I feel like I'd get used to it really quickly.
It would definitely be better if you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it would be better if you couldn't. But considering the payoff, what you get in exchange for the crease, I think it's worth it. I think it's okay.
The front screen, man, that's small. It's weird seeing a 2019 like premium phone with such a small main display. It's not the main display, but this is the screen you're gonna be looking at the most, right? You're gonna look at this and
Never.
interact. You're gonna unfold it each time.
I'm unfolding like
Really?
crazy. Yeah, I'm unfolding like crazy. Part of it is because the keyboard is so nice when it's unfolded.
when it's open. Yeah, I can already tell.
It's still
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
take some getting used to, but it's super comfy.
So the implementation that this phone has with the, like the Huawei phone, the Mate
Yeah.
X, you call it. They roll with the outside screens as being like the main.
Yeah, if it bends the other way,
Right,
It closes backwards compared to this.
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you feel is like the way to go? Forget software, anything else.
So
just design
when I saw the announcement for each one, and I saw the initial presentation for each one, my head was in the Huawei camp because I was like, well, no one wants to give up their display in portrait mode, being sort of flagship level, especially if they're spending $2,000. And it stayed that way until I got this one in the hand.
Really?
Yeah, because I thought there's no way that this could prevail. But then I opened it up and I touched the inside screen and I was like, oh man, that's pretty soft. And that ain't Gorilla Glass or anything too special. So
that's going in and out of your pocket.
I just wonder if when Samsung was looking at this particular problem, if they were like, oh, we need to address that first. It has to close in on itself because of durability.
Right.
Now, granted, people who these are luxury phones.
Yeah.
Like I was telling Jack earlier that this belongs in a suit pocket or something. You could see
this is fancy.
You can see an executive pulling that thing out. So maybe that's not such an issue. But in a typical dusty jean pocket, that plastic display, I'm real concerned about long term if it were folded on the outside. Now I can't say for certain because I haven't played with the Huawei device.
Okay.
So I can't say for certain. I got to get that in hand before I address it or compare them directly.
Okay.
But it's just an area of concern that I didn't expect to come up. And then having this in hand, I was like, oh, that could be potentially an issue. And then the other issue is these are big, right? Because they bend, you have a much fatter device than you typically, about double as fat. And so when I looked at the small display, I realized, well, by going with something so narrow, you truly have one-handed operation in a pinch, because like I said, you're compelled to pop open the bigger display anyways. It's almost like this one doesn't try to pretend that it's a substitute for a flagship 2019 smartphone.
Yeah.
It's just like, look, one-handed, bang out a text or whatever and move on with your life. The interesting thing that's happened to me is, like, I feel like I could live without this.
Without the front at all?
I feel like this is a pocket laptop, sort of.
Okay, so the big question that everyone asks. It's the wrong question. They're asking, is it worth it? But I think the real question that I would say is, like, did they price this right? Did Samsung price this thing appropriately, in your opinion?
If they're going to be able to do it, they're going to have a price tag to match the difficulty in the manufacturing process. If everybody went out to buy one of these things tomorrow, I'm not sure they could meet demand.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, you look at a typical smartphone. I don't have any on the table right now. I don't know if you have yours. I mean, you're looking at a solid state kind of a manufacturing process. It's like, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in a smartphone manufacturing facility.
But it's all machined.
A lot of it.
Like,
and even where there are people, it's very automated almost. Their activities are sort of automated. Their involvement in their part of the process is clearly defined. When you have moving components, it's a totally different ballgame.
Really?
When you have any kind of mechanical component like this hinge, for example,
labor now.
It's just more difficult to manufacture at scale, at mass, and to test for. I mean, you think about the quality assurance on something like this. You got to bend it. What was Will telling me? How many times is this rated to bend? 100,000 times. And that gives you 100 for 5 years. 100 folds
per day.
Each day for 5 years is what it's rated for. Now, I don't know if that's impressive or not. It really depends on how long you expect to hold on to this thing.
Yeah.
But like moving parts, just like people were saying with motorized cameras when the notch talk started and whatnot, it's moving parts are not ideal.
No.
You try to eliminate them wherever possible.
Yeah.
And it's not just from a durability standpoint, it's also from a manufacturing standpoint. It introduces more potential for failure, for error. So, like you said, I don't know that it's so much about them trying to find a price point that compels the mass public to purchase it.
Yeah, it's not gonna.
I think the price point is intentionally where it is to kind of imply, like, this is the bleeding edge for now. It's for a select group of people. And I think even at $1980, I think they're going to have trouble keeping these things on the shelf.
Really?
I do. As expensive as it is, because there's a thing that this thing has that can't really be related one-to-one to the rest of the smartphone marketplace.
The folding screen?
yeah. But what I mean is a factor where it's a throwback all the way to the original iPhone, as far as I can tell.
It felt special to hold that thing.
Exactly.
Right? And you go out in public, you're holding it. There's that feeling of like, I'm someone special.
That's the piece. And also people coming up to you and being like, hey, what is the thing that you're holding there? Because the weird thing about technology is, as much as it's serving a purpose and a function and it does a task, whatever you ask it to do, it also has increasingly become this symbol of cultural connectivity, awareness, this kind of like signal to everyone else that you're up on the culture, like you're aware of the latest. When you pull this thing out, it says something about what you're interested in immediately, like any other smartphone can't really do.
There's something about this whole thing that makes every other phone I've ever used feel like I have the wrong product.
Yeah, antiquated.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I think there are these kind of movements that happen, these innovations, I guess, that take place where it becomes obvious that there's something happening. It's almost, you can't pinpoint it, but when something just feels futuristic.
Yeah. I really think this is the future. Okay. Lou.
Dave.
We're going to sign out.
There you have it.
Cool. Whatever.
Okay, here we go.
You want a flat on the table?
Wow. This just in. Some Galaxy Fold review phones are breaking after a couple days of use.
Let's click on it.
Whose review unit was it?
CNBC, Bloomberg, and The Verge are sharing screen issues and dents.
Ooh. Ooh, that looks nasty.